September 14th. Secretary, please record the members present. We don't have any minutes this time due to the loss of our...
Yes, we'll present them at the next meeting.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, very good. So we'll go right into the regular agenda, and that is, we have two on our list, and they are both at the same residence. And this is a variance to request to reduce the street side yard fence requirement of 15 feet setback to 0 setback for a 6-foot fence. And this is located at 355 14th Street East. Who's here to speak for that? Do you want to go up to the podium and give us your name and the particulars?
Check, 1, 2. All right, my name is Trace Wells, and I live at 355 14th Street East. The fence we're looking to get is just a replacement for the fence that has already been up there for 24 years, at least as long as we've been there, probably longer. We don't exactly know when that fence was built, but it's a 6-foot-tall wooden shadow box fence. And we would just like to, I don't know know what else to say about that. It's pretty simple, I believe. What would you specifically like to know?
Okay. The fence has been there since you have the house and
Yes, sir.
and the way it is and right on that line. Questions from the board?
How much of that fence are you replacing? The total, all the way around the perimeter of the lot?
No, sir. We have a chain link fence that runs around the west and the north side and partially on the south side. The only part of the fence would be the fence that is facing 4th Avenue and a little bit on the front side of the house, the southeast side of the house to where the street is.
Okay.
And from the corner of the house, if you have a lot picture in front of you, from the corner of the house to the road, that's how tall the 6-foot fence is. But from where that fence would be on the roadside, it does taper down to a 2-foot fence to not block visual line of sight to 14th Street if you come up to that stop sign. If that makes sense.
So our situation is just the 15-foot setback on the fence. On the fence.
Actually, and it's the height also. A 4-foot fence is allowed along, right at the property line, a 4-foot fence is allowed. Where it comes up to the vision triangle, a 32-inch fence is allowed. So that would be from the front yard and the street side yard. What's allowed is 4 foot. If you're in the vision triangle, it drops down to 32 inches, which would be the driveway in the corner. That's the way the code reads. When this fence was put up, permits weren't required. The current fence is, I believe, in the right-of-way, which we would never allow any fence to be permitted in a right-of-way. So we started, I believe, doing fence permits 5 years ago. Because we were having situations that were causing issues with neighbors with developed lots, houses being built. We had fences where people couldn't see backing out of their driveways because we have 6-foot fences in the right-of-way, blocking the view. So we mandate that you do a fence requirement now, permit now, and it's been on the books for the heights for as long as I've been here. That's never been changed, I don't believe, since I've worked with the city, which is around 18, 19 years.
Comments, questions? Sean?
My question, so we're only looking at the height requirement on this, right? Or is it required to sit back 15 feet?
It cannot be in the right-of-way. We're actually looking, the fence would not be allowed in the right-of-way no matter what. So that's
But
why,
are we asking to put it in the, I mean, it's asking to put it in the same spot, but as part of the permit, are you looking to us to,
you'd have to,
Or
it'd
wha-
have to be at the property line. That would be my recommendation to the board. I guess it was really hard to word it. Right now, without the property lines being located, it may or may not be in the right of way, but I believe it is based on our programs. I believe the fence is in the right of way, which is not allowed, period. So with them replacing the fence, their request for a 6-foot high fence, their request is for that 6-foot high at the property line, okay, where a 4-foot is allowed. So they're asking for.
okay, so that's what, so really, you're gonna take care of the right-of-way thing, we're not gonna push it to the
Yes,
right-of-way.
because I won't issue a permit in the right of way.
So our request is whether we'll allow the 6-foot versus 4.
Correct.
And,
And to be clear, I'd ask that the board, if you allow the 6-foot, that it be at the property line, not the right of way.
okay.
Okay, clarification.
And they would have to locate their pins to verify that.
So, how far do we think that they're away from the property line? What do you think that's set back?
About probably 3 to 5 feet.
Okay,
So that'd be moving, they'd lose about 3 feet, and then you have a fence, and then you have, what, grass in between the sidewalk or,
Correct.
okay.
and that still leaves them 7 feet from the shed on that northeast corner then?
The next issue that they're asking for is the shed is
Yeah.
kind of the same principles. There wasn't a permit for that, and it was placed there.
Okay.
If I may. The 6-foot tall fence, just for, since that's what we're talking about, the 6-foot tall fence, I have no problem with it not being in the right of way. I understand why that's there. For the 6-foot tall fence, the area north behind our house, that lot is owned by the Viverkas who live to our northwest. We have a signed letter that, and from our neighbors to the east, that they are they wouldn't be bothered with a 6-foot tall fence there, and that is they own that lot for their own garden and things of that later, and they have no interest in selling it or anything like that. So it wouldn't bother. There are no plans to build a house there or any driveway, so I don't think that would cause any obstruction to view.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, does the city have any concerns with the 6-foot high fence here? What, can you help me understand why we have that requirement on the street side yard? Usually it's for visual purposes, I'm guessing. Is there something that else?
Actually, if you look at this, which the applicant just stated, if the lot to the north actually sold, that house would have a 25-foot setback, and they could have a driveway right on the south portion of that lot. So your decision today impacts that lot, whether it's for sale or not. It is a buildable lot, and if a house were to be built on that, that would be a hazard in the city's opinion, based on what our code states.
But even if you had a 4-foot fence, that would be an issue, right? And
It
that
could
is
be an
allowed.
issue if the driveway were to put on that. If somebody came in today, if there was a conforming 4-foot fence, whoever built on the next lot would have to take that in consideration. You could put the driveway on the north side of that lot instead of the south side, so that wouldn't be a vision issue.
But the 6-foot versus 4 doesn't change the impact to that property, is what I'm asking, right? I mean, you still have the same issue on that lot if they put the driveway on the south side, because they're not required to put the fence back 25 feet, right?
Well, the front yard for the next lot would,
But I'm talking on this one.
on this one, the back, generally you cannot the street side yard is a 4-foot height. Rear yard is generally 6 feet, but if you look at the rear yard for this house, you'd go straight back from the house because of the setback. I'm not sure if I'm answering.
No, what I'm asking, on the north property, you say the fence would be an impact if it was 6 feet, but if it's a 4 foot, it's still gonna be the same impact to that property, correct? Because it can only be 32 inches if their driveway's right there, right?
Okay, if they actually,
If
mean,
they
the
put
4
it right
foot-
next to it. So
Right.
the height doesn't really matter to that. It's, both of them are gonna be a problem.
yes,
And he's allowed to bring this street side yard out to the property line, right?
With
It's
a
not
four-
required to be set back.
with a
like-
4-foot fence, yes.
Right. So what does the 2-foot benefit, I guess, from a city's perspective, being in the street side yard, if you still have the same issues with the 4-foot versus the 6-foot?
That's a,
Okay.
yeah, that, I mean, yeah, it's.
Now,
what's on
this
the
one's
code, yeah.
6 foot now. It's in the right of way, right?
Yes,
And is there any issues, has there been any issues that have been brought up because of this
not,
from?
not to my knowledge, no.
And no customer or neighbors had any concerns?
No.
In fact, they prefer
Is
it.
anyone here to speak for or against? No one here? Okay.
Who are the neighbors that signed? One's directly to the lot to the north, you said?
Yep, and we consulted them because that is, they bought an extra plot behind ours, and so they have not only the garage to the west of our house, but straight behind their house, those are Susan and Ray Viverka. And across the street from us, we discussed with them, and their names are, sorry, my aunt prepared this, and she had to take my
No,
grandma.
it's
down to
okay.
Texas.
I just wondered which lots they were. So you got the one to the north and one across Fourth
One
Avenue.
across the street, yes, to the east.
And that's Heathers, okay.
Yes, the Heath. And the reason we're requesting the 6-foot fence, I probably should have stated this in the beginning, is that we have dogs and they are roughly 80 pounds, so quite large dogs. They can clear a 4-foot fence and jump. They are chows. And according to the city, we were supposed to, at least a long time ago, I don't know if any of the dog statutes or animal statutes changed, but they were considered at that time what is a violent breed. Never done anything to anybody, but chows were considered a violent breed because of how protective they are. We do not want them to be able to jump a fence and get out. But like we've had you know the shots and all that stuff, so that's not an issue. But we just don't want them to be able to jump a fence and get out and maybe get hit by a car or something like that.
Other comments, questions? Are you ready for a decision? Anyone?
I'd make a motion to grant the variance request for the 6-foot fence placed on the property line. Is that how you, outside of the right of way?
Correct.
Motion by Sean, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Pat. Further discussion? Hearing none. Sean?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
I'll vote aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes care of the fence. Now, let's go to the shed. And that is the same thing, to reduce the street side yard for the shed on R1 zone. And let's get into that one. Give us a little bit.
Me first?
Give us the background on that.
Okay, so a few years ago, I think we hired a guy. I was at college at the time, so I was up at UND at the time, so I was not at the location at that time. But they hired a guy to just pour a concrete slab so we could put up a shed for our dog house, and we use it as a dog house for our dogs that are in that part of the yard, so that they have cover from everything that that is there, and so they have somewhere dry and things like that. And when he poured the concrete, I guess he didn't get a permit for it. I don't know if he knew he had to get one or not, but he just didn't get one, I guess. And that's about all we need. And so it's still in function as the dog shed, and in winter, we put their food in there so it doesn't freeze and that nature. And that's the primary reason we want it. It's not even used as a storage shed at all.
This isn't in the right of way or anything like that?
It is not, I don't believe, in the right of way.
The shed is there. Questions, comments?
So there's three buildings on here. Which one are we talking about?
The east and
The
northeast
northeast one?
corner,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
How many dogs do you have?
We have 3. We lost one on 4th of July. He had an issue with the fireworks.
So what is the setback of that? It's 10 feet rather than 15 right now. Is that right?
Actually, I believe the structure that's on there is pretty, actually, I think it's 15 feet would be at the furthest west portion of the shed. What's the size of the shed?
The size of the shed, I believe the shed is 6 by
12 feet?
something like that, yes, sir. 6 by 12. And it's just a slab of concrete that was poured there.
So that, but he has 10 foot away from his fence here on his drawing, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Away from the east, from Fourth Avenue.
Actually, and a lot of times the drawings are from the curb. The property line is in from the curb,
Oh,
so you have to take that in consideration.
We measured
It's-
from,
we-
I'm sorry to interrupt. We, just to give you more information, we measured from our fence, the outside part of our fence from the sidewalk.
So if the fence is in the right of way, just to give you that reference point then.
so
The current fence is in the right of way, so,
The fence, yeah, the fence is, but.
and he
the
measured,
shed-
the shed is,
But the shed is 10 feet inside the fence.
yeah.
So it's about 3 feet from the, or 7 feet from the property line.
So
Roughly,
it'd be about
yeah.
7 feet. Okay.
Yeah, currently 7 feet.
Okay. Other comments, other questions?
So this shed came into play because of the request for the permit for the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're just finding all this out now.
Yeah.
Okay,
At the time that shed went in, they were required to have a building permit.
You're required to have a building permit for any structure over a 10 by 12. However, even unpermitted sheds should follow the guidelines from the Dickinson Municipal Code, which would mandate a 15-foot setback.
Just a question, does that concrete slab, does it change the situation at all if it's not in the ground? It's poured on the ground and it's not bolted in or dug in or anything?
Actually, the concrete slab doesn't have any play, but it's the structure
Oh,
itself.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
just to clarify.
Yeah.
Is that structure up against a fence on the west side?
No, sir, it's about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet away from it. No, structure on the west side, you said?
West side.
Um,
It looks like it's up against, or close to a line that's drawn in there.
Actually, I believe that's actually easement, and that structure is probably placed in the easement. If that would have been a permitted structure, it would not be allowed to be there. Based on the size of it, again, I believe it's probably a 10 by 12 or less
Yeah,
than.
less than that, I can't.
And then, so they get placed in easements. A permit wasn't required.
okay.
And staff has been reviewing whether or not we should just permit all detached structures because of what's People place the unpermitted sheds too close to a property line or in easements.
Is there an easement on the backside?
I don't believe there is actually along the north side.
North side?
On the lot to the north there is, but I don't believe there is one there. There may be some private gas lines there, but as far as what's depicted on the photo I have, it would just be on the west side.
Okay.
So that line on the west side of that shed, you're suggesting that might be a gas line?
It's an easement. What utilities are in there, I don't
Okay.
know at this point in time.
It would make sense that a gas line would be there because our gas meter is on the northeast side of the house, on that corner.
Okay.
Questions? Anyone here to speak for or against? Are you ready for a motion?
I've got a question.
Yes, go ahead, Bruce.
So what are the options here? For if we decide that this building needs to move, what are his options? Or one option would be to reduce the size of the shed by an amount that it's an unpermitted shed, or he could reduce the size of the shed on the east side by a number of feet to make it fit within that.
Well, right now it is an unpermitted shed. He wouldn't have needed, they wouldn't need a permit because it's under 10 by 12. Right? The one that's in question,
Well, it's,
or is it?
I guess square footage it probably is, but.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's 120 square feet, sorry.
Oh, okay, okay.
120 square
Okay,
foot.
so it is unpermitted.
It is an unpermitted structure. However, the code still applies even for unpermitted structures.
Right, so if they move it to the east, it's gonna be over over a gas line, you can't do that.
Actually, they would move that.
To the
shed
west,
To
I
the
mean.
west, but the gas line, I believe, comes in, where did you say the gas line came in?
It comes in the northeast side of.
Northeast side?
Yep, the northeast
Not
side of the home.
northwest?
So the northeast side, so the northeast side of our home, that's where our gas meter is. I don't know where the line is. But I believe it goes straight out from the corner of the house to north to the fence line, or to around where the fence line is. I believe that's the way it goes when we had it measured.
Do you have a little fence in front of that shed on the west side of that?
Yes, we do.
That's
We
what that,
sectioned our
that's what
yard.
that line is then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that was your question a while ago. I was wondering.
On all permitted structures, locates are required and no permitted structure will be allowed over a utility.
And then, do we know for sure if that's over the utility?
No,
Okay.
not without the applicant conducting a one call.
I don't believe it is.
Just looking at the property, I would say it either the gas line comes directly in from the east if that's the meters on that side, or it comes straight in from the north.
Okay.
And I think that's where, when we did do a one call to put some things in the yard, like a tree or something, that's where they marked the gas line. It went north to it was north out the fence line, and then from there, I don't know where it went, but.
So, we don't really know where that comes in. If that shed was over the top of it, is not over the top of the gas line now. We do not know that.
No.
If he moves his fence, or when he does move the fence out of the right of way, he has to have a locate, does he not, to move that fence?
Well, we don't mandate a locate, but it's in their best interest to do a locate.
We would absolutely do a one call. I've seen bad things happen to good people if they don't. We would absolutely do that.
Other questions, comments?
So, I've got
Go ahead.
another comment. So, I'm thinking of not just this one, but future situations like this. You know, we're in a position where we're setting an example or a precedent. I guess that's my concern, is,
I
you know.
think that's always a concern. That's why I think everything has to be a case-by-case
Yeah.
scenario.
That's why I was asking about the options, because, you know, one option would be, is to find out where that utility easement is. And, you know, you can get a machine in there, and if it's a slab on ground, you can push that over to, you know, 3 feet, and if it's a doghouse and it's not perfectly level, I guess that's okay. But, I mean, that is an option. And, you know, but we don't want you to push it over the top of an easement if it's not on an easement now. You know, I think that's important that we find out where that is. If we're going to, you know, if we're gonna rule in favor of this variance or accept a variance, and it is currently over an easement, I don't think that's prudent for us to do that.
I agree. I think that I would make a motion regarding this, that we deny this request at this time, and in the future that the owner has his new fence, has the utilities located, and at that time, if that shed is not over the utilities, that if he wants to come back and get it approved, that we would look at it at that time. But right now, I feel the same, that is not in our best interest to approve it without knowing if it's over an easement or a gas line at this time.
Okay. Motion by Pat, is there a second?
I'll second that. But I have a question.
Good.
Is it better for us to postpone this? Because he's gonna have to reapply again if we deny it, is that right?
I believe you could table the shed portion. If you do rule on the shed today, I would ask that if you're going to deny the location of the shed, that the shed would have to be removed prior to acquiring a fence permit. So that's just to add on to it. But if you want to table the shed portion right now, I believe that you could do that.
Well, we could make a decision on whether we're gonna allow the shed there or not, with the consideration that if it's over an easement, or if it's needs to be pushed to the east or to the west, and we push it into an easement, then we're just not gonna allow it. I mean, that's an option.
Pat's motion was,
To deny at this time pending the review of whether the unit is setting over a utility easement or not. And so, let me rephrase that, let me amend that to say that I would make a motion to postpone this until the individual has had a time to review the utility situation.
And just so you know, there is, sorry to interrupt, we do have next month, there will be another item, so it would be on the next meeting. just, we are having a meeting already, so.
Okay, so let's get the motion here again. Well, we know it, we had a second to Pat's motion. And do we go back now and have an amendment to that motion?
I think that would be fair, or Bruce, maybe you want to,
I'll second I'll second that motion, or second the amendment. I guess we have to actually vote on the first motion.
On the first,
Yeah, we have to.
well, yeah, I think we vote on the amendment first and then we go back and vote on the. Pardon? Oh, it was just a comment, the first one? So
I
we
am-
can just vote on,
I can put the amended
okay, you want to read the motion you have?
one. Yeah, so I moved a little variance. That
Is that all right with the board, with the members?
Yep, and I'll second that motion.
And second by Bruce. Any further discussion?
Well, I guess my question to that motion is, he's gonna go back and verify where the gas line is. And then are we telling him he's gonna move this shed? Is that the whole purpose of that, or? Because really the request is to be in the 15-foot, right? It isn't to deal with any easements or, at this point, correct? It's just because it's too close to the property line.
Correct.
And was there a concern that it was in an easement as part of this too? And if he doesn't verify, then what? He's got the fence and he just doesn't come back, then will you stay on him to get the shed removed if he doesn't?
Actually, that's why, in order to get a fence permit, that's why I asked that you add that to the motion, that the shed would be removed prior to the fence permit being allowed. If, as far as you already made the motion and it was
To
passed
table.
to go to a
table.
6-foot fence.
Yeah.
That's already said and done. As far as placing the shed here, and keeping it here, it would be difficult. We would have to go back and if they didn't move the shed, it'd have to go through the legal process then. But yes, we'd continue to
But if our desire is to have him push it back like Bruce said, then why wouldn't we just say that, and it'd be up to you guys to verify whether there's an easement or a gas line that he'd be over the top of, right? Why is that ours?
well,
I
the
guess
thing
is
about
my
it is,
question.
it's not a permitted shed, so if you push it here, it'd be,
But it would be as part of the variance.
Okay.
In essence, he might not be doing a permit, but the variance would be giving him permission to do something, and we could, I mean, you could verify that it's in a proper location then, right?
we could, but generally then I would actually request that a building permit be applied for. You can't apply for a building permit on a lower than 120 square foot structure. We do have people who apply for permits because they want to be compliant with the code. And they're relatively not expensive permits. So, I mean, we could, based on that, but this board would have to say it's okay to be where it's at in order to permit it. Because I wouldn't permit a structure that violates our code.
So our decision today could be to just say, we're gonna deny it, period. And then it's up to the homeowner to move that shed, move it in compliance,
Correct.
and it's up to the homeowner to make sure that he's not moving it over an easement or over a utility.
Right. And currently, right now, I'm more than likely, there's some unpermitted sheds that are over utilities.
Mhm.
I guess that was really my question, ends up with our motion that we've got. What do we want to have happen? What, I mean, obviously, we must have a desired outcome that we're looking for, so,
Actually, the motion we have and seconded is that we table this
until he verifies the utilities, but then what?
I believe that if it's in its current location, if the board is looking at keeping it in its current location and just to verify that it's not over a gas line, then you're okay with it. That's the way I'm looking at
Yeah.
where this board,
I think
That's what I'm asking, are we okay with where it is? I mean, we could approve it then, provided it's not over any utilities, if that's what we're going for. If we want him to move it out of there, then why don't we just deny the request and then he has to figure out where he can put it? I don't know what putting it off, what we're trying to accomplish by putting it off a month is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Okay.
so I'd ask the board to make a decision if you're okay with the current location, approve or deny that at this time. Right.
That's what I guess, with the motion we've got, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what our ultimate goal is here. Either we don't like the location or we do like it. And if we're worried about a utility, then why can't we put that as a stipulation and verify that? If we want him to move it, then we should just deny it and then he has to put it somewhere. We don't really care if he can push it back 3 feet and it's not on a utility, then it's out of our hands, right? Because ours is really the 15-foot request,
Correct.
being inside that, right?
So he'd have to actually move it about 8 feet, in my
Yeah,
math.
probably, because it's
After you
at
locate
7
the
or
property
so.
pins, you'd measure that 15 feet.
Right.
Okay, actually, I think we had a motion to table this, and really, I think there isn't any discussion on a tabled motion, but we did it anyhow. So we'd have to go back and deny it and vote this motion down and make a new motion? Is that what we'd have to do?
I think so.
Well, I think if that's the desire, I just want to make sure I'm clear as to what we're doing with the motion. That was the reason for my discussion, so.
Other comments?
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Just, I don't understand why, so like, I've read a bit of the code, but it's tough for me to understand it. Why can't the shed stay there besides the easement? I understand the utilities for sure, but, is there a reason it can't stay there because of the easement?
The code states that any accessory structure has to be set back to 15 feet
Hmm.
from a property line.
So like where
That's
the
actually our
fence would be?
code.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I guess that's what we're asking. If we could be in that area when we put the fence there, right? Okay. Sorry, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back and take care of this motion of table and get that out of the way. Is there any, okay? Bruce,
Nay?
Pat,
Nay.
Sean,
Nay.
okay, and I'll vote nay. Okay, that is defeated, and so we're looking for a motion to either let the shed where it's at, if it is not over the property line, or over the gas line, or any electrical or any other line, or we make a move to as far as code is concerned.
So, can I make a comment?
Yes,
So let's think about this in the future. Let's say that another one comes up and it's, like this one is 8 feet approximately too close to the property line. What if one comes up, it's 10 feet? 12 feet? At what point are we gonna say, well, this shed's been there for a long time. We've allowed a 6-foot fence. There's about this much of the the shed sticking up above there. I drove by it. You know, I guess that's my comment, is at what point, you know, thinking about this one and future ones, you know, are we going to say, yeah, it's close enough?
And our code is part of the aesthetics too, the way the code's actually written up. So if you actually built a house next to it, whether it's now or 20 years from now, you have a east-facing house, and you're looking out, and you're looking right at a shed. We have the setbacks to eliminate a lot of that, or a detached garage. That's part of the setup of the code also. Even though it works for this property right now, just remember the future. And with lots becoming buildable, where everything's always for sale.
Yeah.
Sean, comments?
No.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion to deny the variance and require the customer or the homeowner to push the shed to
Where it belongs.
within the code.
Okay, motion by Bruce to deny the variance on the shed location and build according to code. Is that correct? Or something to that order?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr.
Second
Chairman.
by Pat. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Bruce,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. So we gotta move the shed according to where it should be.
Yep.
Okay?
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time and your serious consideration.
Anything further? Any other business? You are excused. Thanks for coming.
Sorry about that.
If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to
Motion by
adjourn.
Pat, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bruce. Adjourn.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, we had some